things in Nigeria and all over Africa by the grace of God. We met recently at the IA Foundation Symposium on out-of-school children at the Marriott Hotel in Ikeja. And when I heard him speak, I said, definitely, this is somebody that should come and share some views with us on what to do in the subnational level and in the regional cooperation level, and what Nigeria should be doing going forward to ensure unfettered growth and development. And also the challenge to the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration. Now that the Supreme Court has given their judgment, it is really a time to throw the challenges out there to see how we can make a better Nigerian and a better Nigerian. And God will help us in Jesus' name. Our guest today already has taken the trouble to prepare a presentation for us, and I'm going to be inviting him to kick off his discourse today with his presentation, and then I'll invite Pastor Soli Nebi and also Jumoke Akintaylor, all the way in California, to then take a session of interaction, questions and answers. Thank you all very much. My name remains Itwa Olajide Igodalo, husband of Olajumoke Elizabeth Ibiduni Igodalo. Thank you all very much. God bless you.
Okay. Hello.
Mr. Oyeleye, please. Over to you.
Okay. Good evening, Pastor Itwa. Thank you for having me here. And then good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me before we start talking.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
I've seen Marcella nodding her head anyway, so it shows that at least I can be heard. So good evening once again, or good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are. My name is Sheye Oyeleye, the Director General at Dawn Commission. And Pastor Itwa, it's a privilege and an honor to be part of this series. And I look forward to a very impactful time over the next 1 hour or so. I am very conscious of time, so I would like to go straight into my presentation. I prepare some slides, and after that, we can then start
Pastor Olu, he's frozen. So I don't know if you want to call him.
I will call him now.
Okay. So please bear with us. I know he was having challenges with his connection earlier on. We'll be back.
confirm.
Okay. I'm sure he'll be back. We have the presentation. Maybe we can help set it up while we're waiting.
Yeah, Jumoke, please go ahead
back.
and set it up. And if you want to make the presentation, I know that you have done your blog.
He's back up now.
Jumoke, thank you very much. My sister delivered all your messages.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
He's back right now. We think we can continue with it.
He's muted. Maybe he should turn his camera off if his bandwidth is low.
Okay. You can please continue.
He's in, but I don't know if he's still frozen because he's not on mute. Okay.
Hello.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. You may want to turn off your camera.
We can hear you.
Yeah. You may want to turn off your camera if your bandwidth is low because
I'm
you
surprised
froze.
actually because I'm meant to be on Elon Musk's Starlink. Who knows? Anyway, let me just get cracking. Once again, good afternoon. Regional collaboration, a tool for national development. Whoa. I'm not sure I'm being heard. That's the problem. I'm not sure they can hear me. You can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I've got a quote here. I said, he who does good, having unlimited power to do evil, must be praised, not only for the good he does, but for the evil he forbears. That's Walter Scott. So once again, Pastor Itua, thank you for using your platform and influence as a force for good. Some of us have been an avid follower of yours for so many years. I had a commission called Dawn Commission, which was established 10 years ago in July, the technocratic institution for the 6 Southwest states. Our task is to manage regional integration. I'm sure you know the Southwest states are contiguous states, Lagos, Oyo, Ondo, Ekiti, and Osun. And the idea is for them to basically work together. I'm going to rush through the slides so that we can have enough time to interact. So the content here is introduction, challenges of national development, regional collaboration, then Dawn Commission, a litmus test, and conclusion. Okay, so here is there's an important dashboard here. I talked about growth versus development, economic growth versus development. So the definition I said here, an increase in a country's production of goods and services, typically improvements in social well-being, such as education, healthcare, and overall quality of life. You will understand why I'm going through this in the course of my presentation. Now, I talked of focus. The focus of economic growth is quantitative increase in economic output, GDP. But development is qualitative improvement in overall well-being, not just figure. Now, scope. Again, economic growth focuses more on just economic indicators. But for development, they look at the human being.
I think we're frozen again.
I am calling him now.
Okay. And just ask him to turn off his video so that he can speak. We can hear him when he speaks.
I
If
will
his
tell
video
you.
is okay. Yes. Please bear with us while we are trying to sort out this issue of network.
I'm sorry I'm having this, but I'll continue. Just don't worry.
Please turn off your video. I think if
Yeah,
you turn
I'm
off
gonna
your
do
video,
that
it will
now.
help.
I'm
Yeah.
going to do that if that helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I go on the 5G? Yeah. Just hold on. I want to try and switch my provider. I'm going off the Elon Musk Starlink. I'm trying to go on my MTN 5G.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll be getting. This would be a good time to really, okay, I think he's back in. So please bear with us while we're trying to sort this out. But I think when we were sending this out, we got a lot of feedback, positive feedback that this may be the way to go. This is this regional development is key. I think I just want to read a couple of the comments that regional development is the answer. That's one comment. Another one is the key. So this is going to be interesting because there seems to be a lot of support for this as the tool to nation building, as a tool for national development. So it will be interesting to hear and see the roadmap that Dawn is taking, or Dawn has developed as this tool. I think Pastor T, you're in. You have a lot of insight on that while we're waiting for Mr. Sheye, yourself and Pastor Sonny. I know you talk about this as very important local government development as well. So maybe you can share with us some of your insight while we're waiting for Mr. Sheye to get back in. Okay, I think you can unmute yourself. Pastor Luke, can you make Pastor T co-host?
He's a co-host.
Okay.
Oh, thank
Okay,
you.
he's back. Mr. Sheye is back. Sheye is back.
I apologize on this. I thought that going to Starlink would ensure that it's seamless, but please host disabled participant screen. Please allow me to share my screen, please. Kindly allow me to share my screen, please.
Make him co-host.
Okay, thank you.
Share your screen now.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so hopefully we should be fine. I've left the Elon Musk's thing. So the goal, I was talking about increased economic output, then enhance. Yeah, it's not muted. They can hear me. Then aims to create more equitable and inclusive society. So from the table above, we could see that our national policy thrust has been largely driven by growth instead of development mindsets. For instance, a government wants to construct a road from distance A to distance B. The dominating rationale will be how the road will open up the link corridors. There's rarely a study on the lifestyle and businesses of the people that the road will serve to see how the road will fit their needs. Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, as an example, has no emergency health facility or street lights. The closest health facility is the one constructed at 7-Up by the Lagos State government. Yet accidents happen almost daily on that road. That's an example of how we plan only for growth and not development. Policy without making the central focus. Same is applicable to mineral resource governance, which has led to years of environmental pollution and the attendant militancy in the Niger Delta. The 2023 national budget, as an instance, allocates a considerable 30.1% for debt servicing, further compounded by the recurrent expenditure consuming 38.13% of the budget. Unfortunately, capital expenditure, which plays a pivotal role in promoting development, only receives less than 28%. So this lopsided distribution undermines funding for critical sectors such as education, health, and other areas essential for stimulating national development. So we understand that we must service debt, But what is the rationale for our high recurrent expenditure? Is the output performance of the government bureaucracies commensurate with how much they got? Let me pause here for a second. Today in Western Nigeria, we have in Southwest Nigeria, as they call it now, we have 6 states: Lagos, Oyo, Ogun, Ondo, Ekiti, and Osun. The old Western region, before Midwest was created, is today's 8 states, because it then included the old Delta, it included Delta and Edo, which was then the old Midwest. Now, the bureaucracy that's looked after 8 states, then just about 12 ministers, they had about 12 governors. Today, just multiply that by 8 or even more. Anyway, so I said here that the federal agencies need to be streamlined. By all accounts, the federal bureaucracy is bloated. Add to this bloated structure the 36 state governments, bureaucracies, 1 FCT administration, and 774 local government areas. When budgets of all these government tiers are collated, about 50% of all our public expenditures in Nigeria goes to service their bureaucracies that consist of less than 1% of Nigerian population, according to estimates made by the Nasir El-Rufai-led Public Service Reform Committee. This high cost of governance is the reason we cannot fund critical infrastructure and social programs. High cost of governance also contributes to high cost of doing business, and you can follow the trail of its ripple effects, which in turn reduces Nigeria's competitiveness in the global markets. Numerous African nations, Nigeria included, have earned the unenviable label of resource-cursed countries due to the inability to manage their vast reservoirs of natural resources. I attended a retreat this afternoon at IITA here in Ibadan, and the guest speaker was talking about the numerous mineral resources available in Nigeria, particularly in Southwest, and how our resources is still contributing less than 0.5% to our GDP. Yet, we are called resource rich. So perhaps nothing exemplifies Nigeria's focus on growth, rather than people-driven development, more than our mineral resources management policies. Many of these valuable resources remain untapped, holding the potential for substantial economic prosperity. Furthermore, the exploitation of some resources has given rise to socioeconomic issues, including militancy in the Niger Delta, and of course, the sad part, environmental degradation. Nigeria does not take good care of the geese that lays its golden eggs. Many pro-democracy activists are advocating, and for good reason, that it may be better to allow each federating unit to manage its resources. And please, this is very crucial, and pay a commensurate percentage into the federation account. And that because states are not equal, another agreed percentage could be contributed into a special development fund that will be accessible to less endowed and economically ill-fortuned federating units. I normally hear people tell us that in the old, when we had regions, things worked better, things were very good. But I always put a caveat that those that operated the very efficient regions in the 60s, in the 50s in particular, if they're operating under the system of government we operate today, I'm not sure they will have succeeded, but we'll get there soon. I mean, part of is a good example, which I like sharing all the time, of how the present system we operate has stunted our growth. There was a time when Lagos is about to commission the Red Line from Agbado to Ebute Road. Fantastic initiative, and I'm glad it's about to come on board. But if I tell you that there was a time, for 4 years, Lagos was waiting on the federal government to give them right of way to construct, right of way. Lagos could not get right of way for 4 years. Now, that's the type of system of government or federalism we're operating. But I'm sure this will come up in as I proceed in the paper. So recent research and policy paper presentation focused on Yewa, and in Ogun State highlighted region's substantial mineral wealth. We were there 2 weeks ago. However, despite its resource wealth, the indigenous population has not benefited significantly. The limestone resource of their land has made a few people billionaires, but it is a resource the indigenous could not harness. I mean, we were in Yewa, and the despondency of the population is palpable. I mean, we even did a survey and basically had no hope. And these are people sitting in the midst of vast mineral resources that some people are now taking away to turn themselves into billionaires. So again, a parallel can be drawn with Niger Delta and the grievances of its people leading to militancy and environmental health issues. The flexible federal structure where the central government holds significant authority over key areas that could drive national development. The reluctance to decentralize or devolve power to the subnational governments of federating units has resulted in many states operating ineffectively and relying heavily on federal allocations for basic administration. In fact, some of them I tend to call them salary payment centers. Some of these states, they just pay salary. And if there's no federal allocation, they can't survive. And you're then asking yourself, what is the essence of a state that cannot even generate 10% of its operating costs? States still carry the military era structure of administrative centers and need to evolve into development engines of the 21st century. Imagine that the entire 36 states and FCT only generated for 2022 1.9 trillion as IGR. That is an average of 51 billion per state. If we put the average IGR on the list, it is the 8th highest figure, meaning that 30 states generated below 50 billion as IGR. With this data, what this data reveals is that states apparatus still operate as administrative centers. And how do you develop if all you do is just pay your overhead costs? How will development happen? How would that rail line come? How would you be able to fund? I mean, United Nations has a percentage that I think it's about 16% or so for education. Not many states. I'm not even sure any state is doing that at the moment. But where would the money come from? When I know states at some points, now that they're getting more money, maybe it's a different thing. But I know some states that spend close to 90% of their federal allocation, monthly allocation, on salaries. So how will that state impact the life of the majority of its people? Meanwhile, they are endowed by the monthly allocation that comes from Abuja, yet each state is endowed with immense development potentials. We're getting there. So there's no way the development potential of the states can be fully unlocked until the imbalance in Nigeria's revenue sharing formula is addressed. The flawed vertical revenue allocation ratio, which allocates 52.68% to the federal government, and 26.72% of the 36 states originates from the era of military rule, when we used to have the command and obey structure. And that is and it's that military thing that has informed the constitution that we are operating. During this time, critical public assets such as NITEL and NEPA were under the government's ownership and financial control. With most of these assets having been privatized, it questions the legality and morality of the federal government holding on to that percentage of federal revenue. This imbalanced allocation is the source of inefficiency in public sector. The horizontal revenue allocation formula is also a disincentive for states to aspire to development strides. So take as an example, the IGR performance, 10%, education 4%, health 3%, water and so on. With factors that do not engender development like landmass 10% and population 30%. That's how they share our money. Regional collaboration, now, the meat of this refers to the cooperation and coordination between different regions, often within a country or across neighboring countries, to address common challenges, pursue shared goals, and promote mutual development. It involves various entities such as governments, organizations, or communities working together to pool resources, share knowledge, and tackle issues that transcend individual regions. Regional collaboration, again, can take many forms, including economic partnerships, joint infrastructure projects, cultural exchanges, collaborative initiatives in areas like security, trade, healthcare, education, and environmental conservation. The primary aim is to leverage the collective strengths and capabilities of regions to achieve more comprehensive and effective outcomes, whether for economic growth, social development, or addressing shared challenges. Just 1 second, please. Several nations have harnessed the potentials of regional collaboration for both national and regional advancement. So as an example, American counties have effectively employed regional collaboration to foster localized development. The Southwest region, an offshoot of the old Western region, serves as a compelling illustration of successful regional collaboration as a development model in Nigeria. It is different from what we have as the Niger Delta Development Corporation or the Northeast Development Corporation, which are creations of the federal government. DAWN was not a creation of federal government, it's a creation of the people of Southwest, which was then sold to the states. I mean, in the question and answer session, I will get to that. Now, examples, case one of how regional collaboration has worked in Southwest. I said the 2014 Ebola crisis, Lagos State, in collaboration with other Southwest states through DAWN, combated the outbreak, preventing it from becoming a nationwide health issue. This was made easy because of the platform like DAWN. The health commissioners, the governors were able to sync their ideas and work together. So imagine for a minute that Ebola had gained ground before they started thinking of how to collaborate. That would have been a disaster. Case two, Oodua investments today. Oodua is today, the profile is now, for a lot of people that don't understand, Oodua investments started in 1976 when the old Western region was balkanized into 3 states of Oyo, Ogun, and Ondo. The then military governors, and we thank them for this, agreed that the companies that were under the old Western region need not be sold. They just formed the company and called it Oodua. Because I tell people that Awolowo did not start Oodua, but Awolowo started the companies that came under Oodua. Case 3, IPAs, investment promotion agencies. Again, DAWN facilitates annual investment promotion agency conference, serving as a magnet for local and foreign investments in key development areas within the region. So marketing a region with over 60 million population to investors is notably more effective than marketing, for example, a tiny state with 3 million population. That investor will listen to you if 6 Southwest states are talking as an economic bloc rather than a tiny state. Then again, case 4, Office of Transformation. Office of Transformation is currently at different stages of operations in all states. These offices help each state to learn from each other. So we share good practices among each state. We have the community of practice in budget and planning among the heads of services. They meet regularly, health commissioners, finance commissioners, where best practices are shared among these 6 states. That's some of the things we engender here at DAWN. Case 5, Amotekun. Amotekun came out of DAWN Commission. Amotekun is filling a gap in the nation's security architecture, and that is evident to all. In the 2021 annual report from the Amotekun Commandant of Ondo State, it was revealed that the security force effectively addressed 515 herders and farmers confrontations out of 2,633 instances of insecurity issues arrested in the state between 2020 and 2021. Again, Amotekun shows how collaboration can effectively address developmental issues. Security is a developmental matter. If there's no security, there can be no growth. The 6 states came together, banded together, and today it is working. Then the final one here, I said facilitation. Regional collaboration is also beneficial to the cost of development partners and international institutions. So DAWN Commission facilitated partnership to engage, reform, and learn, PEARL, a DFID-funded program that ran for 5 years with DAWN. Before the advent of DAWN, DFID would have had to initiate discussion with each of the 6 states separately, but we took the task off them, and it worked very well. And I'm getting now to the end of the presentation. Again, power and railway. Recent devolution of power concerning electricity and railway sectors bodes well for future regional collaboration. Over the next 5 to 10 years, the Southwest electricity and railway sector is expected to follow a similar path of remarkable progress. We are at an advanced stage of discussions with several private sector players in power, and the rail experts. We met about a month ago, and we are again progressing with the states willing to work together to deliver a rail system for the Southwest. So finally here, I said similar systems. We want the systems of each state to have handshake points and to talk to each other, starting with our regional health blueprints that plans to connect all the states' insurance health systems, so that if you are from Ondo State, you live in Akure, and you suddenly fall ill and you cross to and you are in Ibadan, you can just present your health card. The aim is that anywhere you are in Southwest, you could be guaranteed the same quality of healthcare. That is as a result of collaboration. Finally, regional collaboration is not driven by secessionist intentions. You see, I never get tired of explaining to everyone who cares to listen that when you are talking of regional collaboration, we are only talking of states within Nigeria trying to band it together to enhance and make sure that they grow at a faster pace. If the 6 states of Southwest work together, development in Lagos will easily extend to Ekiti, Ondo, or Osun, as opposed to working in silos. More importantly, the world has moved away from working in silos. It is important for Southwest, my area of purview. And as I said, there are several examples, I'm sure it will come up during the question and answer session, that will show that what we're doing at the moment as a country is like living a lie. The type of constitution that we're operating, that we're afraid to, it's as if we're afraid to confront our demons. I don't see how we can accelerate development if we keep practicing what we're doing. It's going to be a challenge. No matter who you put there, it will always be a challenge under this system where what I call a pseudo-federal system or feeding bottle federalism that we are practicing. Anyway, I said finally, not being a secessionist intention, its primary objective is the optimization of resources to foster national development. This has been the overarching mission of Dawn Commission, to make the Southwest region an inviting destination for individuals to work, reside, and invest. Our experience in the last 10 years has proven that regional collaboration is a veritable national development model that and should be strengthened. We believe that every Nigerian should use their influence and platform to advocate for it. We are open to working with individuals, corporate entities, whether in the private, public, or non-governmental sectors, to push the frontiers of development through regional collaboration tools. Thank you very much. I apologize I had to rush through because I'm conscious of time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, sir. Pastor Sonny.
So thank you very much, Sheye. My name is Sonny, and we thank you for that detailed presentation. You know, when we first heard about this regional collaboration, what immediately came to mind is how is this going to work? You have narrated clearly how it's working within the West, and I'm sure there are other regions also that have common interests where it is working. So how exactly is DOWN operating? Let me start from there. I think DOWN is the acronym for
Development Agenda for
Western Region. How did it come into being? How is that different from UDUA? What are the collaboration? You know, where does all that come in? If you can fit us in.
Okay, quickly, how did it come into being? Yeah. The commission itself started life in 2013, July 2013. So we're 10 years this year. But the idea of DOWN started 3 years earlier. Yeah. We had eggheads, academicians, businessmen, activists in the public, some politicians, over a 3-year period, met several times, trying to chart a development roadmap for Southwest Nigeria. The meetings were championed by a group called the Afenifere Renewal Group, ARG. They are different from the Afenifere that you all know. They championed it over a 3-year period, several forum meetings, symposium, eventually, after about 2.5 years, they came up with what they called the Dawn documents or roadmap for development for the region. I mean, what prompted them was the fact that 6 states that used to be Western region, by the time they were coming together in 2010, 2011, they realized that we were now also, apart from Lagos, relying solely on federal funding or federal allocation to survive. And they kept asking themselves, that, how do we get to this stage? That Western region that used to be the pride in Nigeria now has to rely on federal allocation to survive. So part of reclaiming that lost glory, part of trying to see how the 6 states can come together and share ideas and implement projects or policies together was what brought the Dawn documents. So the roadmap, the document itself was then taken around the governors, the then governors, who coincidentally were not in the same party, but the documents, they all absorbed, they agreed straight away that this is a roadmap that can engender and foster cooperation and also development. So they adopted it, because I remember that time, one of the governors was in Labour Party. I think we had PDP governors then, but they all saw this as a development initiative and keyed into it. And they agreed that for this to work, they needed to set up a semi-independent organization that will allow this to function properly. So they agreed to create Dawn Commission, which will be the body to ensure that the 6 of them work together. And that was what gave birth to Dawn in 2013. They all met at the City Hall in Lagos in 2012 and pronounced that we've agreed we are going to subscribe to this document, and we will set up an organization that will ensure that this document works, that we, as much as possible, stick to the letters of the document. Now, the document itself, as we normally say, it's not a static document. So what was written in 2011-12, there's been a lot of modifications along the way, because what was applicable 12 years ago is not what is applicable today. But the crux or the theme in that document is development. So you have things like having to do rail, having to do security, build roads together that link the agricultural belts of the states. As an example, in the past, part of the things that we focused on was power. Thankfully, before President Buhari left early this year, he signed the power bill, which devolved power to the states. And I can tell you here for free now that the states are working together to ensure that our people have access to power. Yes, the law, again, which is part of our sad thing, is not, they've not gone the full hog yet, but there are ways around it our states are working on to ensure that in interacting with potential investors in the power sector, as an example, we have the same template. What the Dawn platform has brought on is the 6 states now have examples and Dawn Commission easily brings the 6 states to the same table. So if we want to talk about rail or power, just about a month ago, we brought in all the rail experts and all the 6 states as well. They came together quickly to agree on the common position and how they will proceed. Those are some of the things we've been doing. As is, I mentioned during the course of my presentation that the 6 states developed a regional health blueprint that's about to be launched, a comprehensive blueprint that was the committee of about 16 people headed by former health minister. And they came up with the document that the 6 states are subscribing to, and it will be the template for them to operate. We're hoping to launch it maybe early next year. Even if you want to invest as a private sector player in the health sector, that is the template that the 6 states have agreed on. Those are some of the things we do. And we tell people that it is not a secessionist agenda. Nigeria is a federal state. Unfortunately, the type of federalism we practice is still not working as we all like. But if contiguous states, and I'm glad that even the new Minister for Transportation recently was encouraging contiguous states to start thinking of collaboration in the areas of rail. So the Northeast governors met last month, and the first thing they said is, oh, all the states in Northeast must come together and do rail. They can see that there is power when contiguous states are able to work together for the interest of Nigeria. Unfortunately, there are still people who are probably stuck in the past. I remembered when Amotekun was going to start, the opposition the Southwest faced. Some said, oh, it's a Southwest army, which they shouldn't allow it. Why should they collaborate on security? And we are saying that in the federal country, security cannot be the exclusive preserve of the federal alone. Thank God the 6 states defied the federal government and decided that, look, our first task as governor is I'm the chief security officer of my state. We need to secure ourselves. And thankfully they agreed. Amotekun is working in the 6 states. It is working. A state like Lagos does not call its own Amotekun. They have the neighborhood watch. Well, a lot of the things they do is, in fact, the laws that guided the setting up of Amotekun was copied from Lagos neighborhood watch. So all I'm just saying here is that, you see, the example that people give that in the past, regions were working. The constitution they operated then was different. If you bring an Awolowo to come and govern in the type of what we have today, I can promise you, he will fail. He won't succeed. It's not. There's no rocket science there. That's why I use the example of Lagos waiting for 4 years to get the right of way to do red rail. They waited for 4 years. So Dawn Commission, as I said, its main task is engendering regional cooperation at different sectors. And we focus more on the people. And we don't deal with just numbers or GDP. No. Whatever we do, how will it affect that man?
Okay, so Sheye, for example, thank you very much for taking us through this elaborate process. Maybe for the benefit of everybody on the platform, the Dawn Commission, so you have an office, where is it located? Lagos, Ibadan, Akure. Do you have staff? Are they drawn from all the states? What is the modality? What projects or collaborative effort has the Dawn Commission facilitated that you can point to as a critical success factor that we can see, ensures your continued existence?
Yeah. We are based in Ibadan,
Okay.
Cocoa House. Ibadan was chosen because the old Western region, Ibadan was the capital.
Yeah.
So Ibadan is central. So we are based in Ibadan. We don't have offices across the states.
Okay.
We have regional integration commissioners. Coincidentally, they're all meeting here again tomorrow. So all the states have commissioners or special advisors at cabinet level who are represented at Dawn Commission. And the idea is that whatever happens here, they are the ones that champion it in their states. So of course, we have direct access to the governors, but our governors are very busy people. So it's always good to have their representatives there. So the commissioners or special advisors, as it may be called in some other states, are the ones that we regularly interface with. Now, you asked that what can we point to? Quite a few things. I mentioned the health blueprint that we've done, but a major thing that a lot of people, what actually brought us into the limelight was when we decided to set up that security network that everybody calls Amotekun. The conceptualization, the idea behind it, everything came from here. It came from Dawn Commission, down to the color, the logo, or whatever you see out there. It was taken to the states and they adopted it. You see, I say this all the time, that why we have been here for 10 years is the fact that we don't do politics here. So whether you are from APC or PDP or NNDP or Labour Party, the moment you are a governor here and it's in Southwest, when it comes to Dawn Commission, people drop their political hats at the door. The only thing we talk about here is politics. It's development, nothing to do with politics. And you see, I think that the realization that states, as they are presently constituted, are probably, I won't say unsustainable, but I would like to say that they are not viable. They're not viable. And you see, if you look at Southwest as an example, Lagos State is probably the only, Lagos, maybe Ogun, viable, you can do this, do that without having to rely on federal support. But we say this all the time, that what is the point in having 5 neighboring states that are poor, and Lagos State is the only successful state? What you then have is that whatever infrastructure, whatever you provide in Lagos, you will constantly be swamped. Let me give you a simple example. Ogun State today, they're doing very well because they've been able to attract a lot of foreign direct investments into their states over the last 10 years. So what has happened is that the migration into Lagos of the young ones in the last 10 years has dropped significantly because there's enough for them to do in Ogun State. Enough companies there, so they don't have to go and work in Lagos. So if we are now saying that, 6 states are trying to synergize, Dawn Commission's role is to ensure that the synergy is seamless. When they come here, they agree. When we talked about rail recently, the template was agreed on how to proceed. They're working on it. Again, when we're talking about power, of course, Oyo State cannot go and supply Ekiti State power under the new law, but there is a template that the 6 of them have agreed that this will be the irreducible minimum.
All right, Shay, I want us to make it a conversational, more conversational, so that we can put in a lot of questions. I see Tayo Fagbero wants to jump in, and he has a lot of insight about this also. But let me just ask, so how are you funded? Because I had asked whether you can point to anything that you have collaborated. Amotekun is one good example. Fine, we can see that operational. But how are you funded? Right now, do the states, come together to fund it?
Yeah, the funding is straightforward.
As you take that also, is there a force of law behind this Dawn and everything you agree? Because I know how we work with legalities, so you can go back to their state and say, look, we have to domesticate it, go through the National Assembly and all of that. How does all this collaboration take place?
Okay. Yeah. The funding is from the 6 states. We try to liken ourselves to an ECOWAS or an EU that are funded by member states. So the member states fund Dawn Commission. Also, the 6 states have an agreement signed, executive order signed by the 6 states that subscribe them to Dawn. The reason there can't be, the Constitution of Nigeria does not allow regional law. So you can't have a law that cuts across 6 states. The law can only be domesticated in your state. Yeah. So to get across that, we have executive orders that set up Dawn Commission that was signed by all the 6 states with which we operate. Also, I also like to say that we also, as Dawn Commission itself, because we also deal with international partners, we have the consultancy arm that is registered with CAC. So that allows us to deal with external partners. But the funding is solely from the states, which so far so good as well. You were asking that, has it been that seamless? Initially, when we started in 2013,
yes,
of course, because it was a bit novel, some states felt, oh no, are you bringing us back again under a single state? But the good thing is that we went into so early in our life as a commission, we went into collaboration with DFID from the UK government, brought in a program. That program, which the states probably were aware of it, but they came through Dawn because they realized that it would be cheaper, faster to bring 6 states together under the Dawn body. It allowed the states to now receive Dawn better. We have 6 bureaucracies. The governors subscribe to it easily, but it wasn't the easiest of tasks to start with the civil servants, because in those days when we first started, it was a civil servant in one state would say, no, we'll do our own thing this way. We do our own thing that way. But eventually, the ice was broken, and we were able to convince them of the need for states to work together. And some of the things that we've done, which I always like to tell people, the intangibles, if you like to call it, budgeting practices. The 6 states now operate the same budgeting practices based on the work we've done over the years with them.
And what is that? What did you do?
Hey, again, that's what I'm saying. When we talk about what we did was we collaborated with DFID to bring in for them to adopt the same system across board, so that it's what operates in Lagos when they're doing their budgeting is what Osun or Ekiti. It's the same templates that they operate with. Because, as I said, we have what we call the community of practice. Community of practice of finance or budget and planning commissioners, as an example. They meet regularly, so that what works in Ondo, they can easily share with Lagos. Lagos takes it on board. Luckily for us in Southwest, we have Lagos as our gold standard in several areas.
Yeah.
The other states tend to copy those good practices. There are things that have happened in Ondo that other states have copied, and they're doing well. One of the best health insurance schemes today is the Oyo State Health Insurance Scheme. I'm talking about the state's insurance schemes, and our other states adopted the Oyo model. So you find that usually states will visit Ogun State will come to Oyo.
Okay, so let me just find out before I open up the floor for further comment and question. So, for example, taking this your health stuff, they have 6 health commissioners in the various states.
Yeah.
If they have to do something about health and with their attendant bureaucracies down to their PAMSECs and all of that, if they have to do something regarding health, do you get the health commissioners? Do you get the PAMSECs in all the 6 states? Do you get directors? Do you get rep from all the health ministries? Or is it just one single rep? Whether he's health or not, he's the one that does power, road, health, industry. How does Dawn, coordinate and deal with all of this?
So let's use the health example.
Yes.
Assuming we want to talk about maybe we want to talk about child mortality as an example.
Yes.
What we then do is that we identify the actual bureaucrats or the actual civil servant, the most senior civil servant in charge. So of course we go to the PAMSEC. So when we call them that we need to talk about malnourishment or child mortality in the Southwest, we don't just start from the commissioner. We start from the PAMSEC. Mr. PAMSEC, the director in charge, for want of a better word, the director in charge of child mortality in your ministry, please send him or her to us, because all his other colleagues are coming from the other states for us to brainstorm. When we meet with the technocrats, we then take it back to the politicians. You see, we realize that, and quickly, that's the point, that the civil servants are the ones that are going to be there. Government will go and come, but the civil servants are going to be there. So early in the operations of Dawn Commission, we courted, as in COURTED, we courted the civil service and ensured that we get their buy-in. And that is what has helped in whatever we do. We talked of Office of Transformation that has been set up in all the states. Was part anything that we need to implement in the states. The Office of Transformation in those states tend to champion it.
Okay.
So that it's not just that we say something, one government does it, or they do it for a year and they forget about it.
And they forget about it. Yeah,
We
exactly.
have Office of Transformation set up, headed by PAMSECs and Director Generals, was created as a result of the work we do here at Dawn. So we focus on individual ministries. So if it's health, if it's sports, if it's education. I mean, one classic example, which I like to mention, is I remember during the COVID era,
Yes.
and the federal government said, I remember the Minister of Education there said, oh, this year we are not going to take WAEC, that it can't do WAEC because of COVID.
Yes.
What Dawn Commission did was to quickly bring in the education commissioners And we agree, we met over Zoom then. We said to ourselves that if we don't take WAEC, it will be a challenge for this region because of the numbers we churn out every year. So we agreed on a common position, and they approached the federal government to speak with one voice and said, we in Southwest Nigeria, we've agreed that we're going to take WAEC. I don't know how you're going to do it. Eventually, we're able to sway the federal government, but they spoke with one voice as a result of them having a body like Dawn, bringing them together quickly. For us, that is part of what we call collaboration, rather than thinking in that silo mentality. As I said, it's not all been smooth sailing, but I can assure you that the benefits of the 6 states thinking together, sharing ideas has helped a lot. And our governors now meet regularly as well.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for that bit of insight. I mean, the whole idea is to see what is working. Are you aware whether other regions have a collaborative body like this that puts them together?
I'm glad you asked that question. There was the BRACE Commission that preceded Dawn. BRACE stands for Bayelsa Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Edo, and Delta. BRACE Commission preceded Dawn. They were in existence before us. But unfortunately for that region, the Niger Delta region, NDDC came. NDDC basically stunted the growth of BRACE because, of course, NDDC became, and I hope I'm saying it right here, they have money, so they can award contracts. so they can award contracts.
Yes,
so everybody gravitated towards
NDDC.
And
BRACE died.
And stunted, I don't want to say died, because towards the tail end of Governor Wike's administration in Rivers, they tried to bring back BRACE Commission. You see, NDDC is a federal government creation. You can't compare it to BRACE that was started by the Niger Delta people themselves. Some of the things we do here at Dawn, if Dawn had been a federal government creation, they won't allow it. A federal government creation would not have allowed an Amotekun, as an example. A federal government commission wouldn't have gone against the grain in saying, no, we want to do WAEC, as an example. If you get my point. So,
yes, I do.
So the idea that, as I said, we believe that other regions need to copy this, but it has to come bottoms up, not top down. Even the Northeast Development Commission, yes, it's a child of necessity, set up because of the insurgency in that area. Yeah. But at the end of the day, Dawn is unique, as I said, because it actually came from the people, taken to the governors, who then adopted it.
All right.
I guess. Yes, and I'm glad that BRACE is coming back.
Okay. I guess what will really sell Dawn to other regions is if we can showcase the successes and what Dawn has been able to do.
Absolutely.
But Dr. Asimi, let me take 2 questions from 2 people that have raised their hands or comments. And then after that, we can continue the engagement. And I'll look at the platform. I guess there are some questions. Tayo Fagbero, can you please unmute yourself and make your comments or ask your questions? Thank you, Tayo.
Thank you so much, Pastor Sonny. Dr. Sheye, thank you so much for your presentation.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening. There are 3 things here. You started with, and of course you ended just about now, that Dawn is people-driven. One of the things we would like to know is the extent of citizen engagement, because all I'm hearing you is that the governors get together, the commissioners get together, the head of civil service, they get together and they initiate a collaborative plan and then, work towards it. We have not seen sufficient citizen engagement across the nation in national development. We hear a cluster of group of people come together, they bring stakeholders that they want to invite. So we would like to know, to what extent is Dawn engaging citizens? Because I can give you data on the livelihood indices of the 6 states you are talking about, and people are still suffering. The well-being is at the low edge. Micro-industry is at the low ebb. So the question is, how are you balancing the citizens' needs with the technocrats, like you said, the political leadership. That's one. Number two, you talked about cost of governance, which everybody has been talking about, but nobody wants to take the lead or take the charge. Can't we start to look at, and I've looked at the cost of governance for the 6 states also, it's not different from what we're having in the federal level. So which means that we just talk about this, there isn't sufficient action and deliberate intent to change the cost of governance. You said it right, that the cost of governance is high, but then we're not looking at what has done towards cost of governance. The third thing is we need to have a baseline of human development and sustainable development indices that can showcase for us where Dawn started 10 years ago, where they are now, and how they are properly aligned with the sustainable development. And that indices has to be transparent. I went to some of the sites, the websites of the government, the 6 states you are mentioning. We don't have sufficient transparent information about budgeting, about what is happening in the indices of development. So we can have a lot of narrative, qualitative write-up, but it's exciting. Nigerians are good at that. We're good writers. But then we're not very well versed in using data and providing transparent information to the citizenry for us to be able to make decisions. Lastly, you talked about the resources, which is good, but we're all placing emphasis on the mineral resources. What grows a developed environment is more of the micro enterprises, small, medium enterprises. It will be good to know what is Dawn's approach to industrialization, because we're in the 4th industrial revolution. And yet, yes, mineral resources are essential, but then even if we don't mine those mineral resources, there are capacities to enhance micro industrial development, just like China has done. And then we can lift people out of poverty. Those are my comments and inputs for you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for some of the questions. Let me start from the last one. One of the things we are doing is we came up with what we called a digital literacy document for Southwest. Here, what we try to do is try to prepare the youth of Southwest for the industry of tomorrow. There's no point in going out of your state, going abroad to try and attract a company to come and set up in your state. And they get there and they don't even have the workforce. So what we've done is come up with what we call a digital literacy document. And we work hand in gloves with Odua Investments, which I will still mention later, which is the business. I'm sure we all know Odua Investments anyway. They are we call them the money men. They are the ones that do business. We are the think tank. And just 2 days ago, they launched what they call them. What was the name now? They're trying to take digital education, literacy education into the 6 states. They will fund it, trying to ensure that we have a fit for purpose workforce. We say this all the time, that it is the company of 30, 40 years ago that you find 5,000 people working there. That same company today probably has 400 people because everything is automated. So how do you prepare a workforce that is ready to service or serve whatever companies you're bringing into your region? Moreover, can you also get them to go out there to serve, to work across the whole world? So digital literacy is something that we have been pushing, and we are glad that we are now at the implementing stage where we're going to be taking it across all the local governments of the Southwest. Now, you talked about cost of governance. You're not lying, but yes, Dawn Commission can recommend, cut down the cost of governance. If one wants to be brutal, one can say, states that are not viable should merge. But we can only say that. I'm not sure that Turkeys ever vote for Christmas. Nobody will ever say, come and scrap my state, I'm not viable. Because we still have access to the funds that come in from Abuja. I really don't know how I can answer the issue of cost of governance, how we can cut that, because yes, we are meant to lead by example. And I'm sure that I know some of our states, they tried as much as possible not to have a bloated structure, but it is what it is. We are still in a country where government is still the main source of business for a lot of us. Don't engage citizens. Yes, we do have, not as strong as we would have loved, and I must admit, but yes, we do engage citizenry. We have what we call our town hall meetings, that we go across states to meet with the people there. And it's something that we plan to do a lot more in the new year, because we must not be seen, must never be seen as an elitist thing. A lot of the initiatives we push out there is because of the engagement we have with the grassroots. We are in the position where, and that's a plus for us, we have people, they walk into our office, tell us what is going on, what needs to be done. And once we hear from them, we are on to our states immediately. Just recently, we had some issues on agriculture in certain parts of Oyo State. We heard from them, we spoke with all the farmers, met with them because of the interactions we do have with all the farmers associations. And we're able to then push to the states here in Oyo that, look, we've met with the farmers in Ukeogun. These are the challenges they are facing. This is what they want. And thankfully, of course, Oyo State government took it up and listened. So we have avenues that we meet with the people, but it will be strengthened in the new year. So it's not that we don't meet with them at all. And as I said, we don't want this to be seen as an elitist commission. No, it is, and you are very right. The moment we forget to engage citizens and just start meeting in our own small corner, we lose the essence of why we've been set up. And then you talked of how can we measure the success? You talked of baseline human development index to see the impact of what we've done over time, the last 10 years, and how it has impacted. If I have your email, there are things I can share directly with you that you'll be able to then be the independent judge to see whether we've actually had an impact. You see, don't forget that we have 6 states, and in quotes, they can still be fiercely independent, but as much as possible, a lot of the things that we've done here that has been pushed into the states has had direct impact. It is our governors listen to us. They see us as, they know that any advice that comes from here is non-partisan. So as much as possible, the things that are not comfortable for them at times, they will say, oh, well, we'll see, you are not the one that wants to contest next election. We have that once in a while. But generally, the areas that we've engaged them, that have taken on board, they have seen the effects in their states.
All right, thank you very much.
And I said, if I can have your email, there are things I will share with you tomorrow.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks. Tayo, I hope you are satisfied. Let me take Tolu and Leke.
Satisfied.
You are, or you are not?
No, yeah.
Not,
I will share some things with him anyway.
Okay, it's all right. I appreciate that. That's good enough for now. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Shea.
Tolu, you can unmute yourself and speak, and then after that, we'll take Leke so that you can take the 2 questions together.
Thank you, Pastor Sonny. Thank you, Dr. Shea. It's been very enlightening. Appreciate this time and sharing the insight of what Don is doing. I myself have been following up on what Don is doing of late, and Mr. Tayo asked some of the questions I wanted to ask, but I have some additional ones that I want to ask related to, and also comment. In terms of working with the 6 states, I would think the data and having information as from how the states are performing in terms of each of the respective ministries and the way the states are functioning is important. How is Dawn helping to make sure that these states publish probably on the website their information that people can see and relate with? Okay, this is the budget, this is the cost, this is what is being spent, this is the human capital. Those kind of things, number one, we foster trust in the people in those states, but also it's a data that can also be used in addressing future trends in terms of growth for how each of these states will grow in terms of population expansion. What are the people, how many people are moving into these states? What resources and infrastructure needs to be in place, health, road, whatever, education, so that they can plan ahead, because data is the new oil. Yeah, we talk about solid minerals. Yeah, it's good, but really the top industries in this age now are data industries and not the mining industries. But I'm not bringing down mining, it's important. But we also need to focus and look at how we can mine and make data available and use that to be able to build capacity and also to be able to grow in these regions. The other aspect is related to, you talk about all the various initiatives that you've defined in your presentation. And I know Dawn is more like advisory and a consultative kind of a agency or a group. So, but all these ideas, the rail, transportation, the health sector, execution is always the thing. And we know in Nigeria, it's one thing to have ideas on paper and define, but execution is always a problem. What is the plan and what's the strategy around the execution of some of these and other initiatives coming up, the financing of it? I know Lagos does a lot of PPP kind of financing. The Blue Rail is based on public-private partnership financing. Is that part of the whole plan with public-private partnership? Are you working with ADB or with World Bank? Is that part of the idea for the financing part and also on the execution part? And finally, my other aspect is capacity building, which touched on, if you have the data, then we know, okay, how many children are graduating from leaving high school? Do they all want to go to university, or do they all want to? But there are other trade opportunities. Carpentry is a big job. What are the technical colleges? And that we can build capacity in that area. Whether it's a metal workshop, when I went to school in government college, we had metal workshop, we had wood workshop, we do all those kind of things. But a lot of those are being kind of put aside now, and the focus is go to the university and study whatever. University is good, but what are we need to focus on building capacity across all areas, not just get a degree in the university area. You can really do a good job in other parts. So those are my areas.
All right, thank you, Tolu.
Thank you, sir.
Just hold on, let me see. Is Leke still there? Does he want to ask his question? I know Tolu's questions were quite a handful, so but I'm sure you noted them. All right, you can go ahead and take those questions.
Okay, let me start with capacity building, the last part.
Yeah.
There is the education policy for Southwest that was agreed on about 5 years ago or 6 years ago, 2017, when all the states agreed to it. Now, I think it was the second or third point on that thing about the development of technical and vocational education. It was agreed among the 6 states that a lot more money must be pumped into technical and vocational education. I mean, then we were talking about all our artisans from outside the country, neighboring countries. And we said to ourselves, it's because the emphasis has been on the paper qualification that everybody wants to go to university. We did say that in the old Western region, we had technical colleges. You just mentioned that in GCI, you had metal workshops and stuff like that. Those that went to Ayetoro Comprehensive will tell you what they did in those days. So part of the education policy for Southwest is that the state should invest more in technical and vocational education. Now, yes, we're seeing one or two states doing that, but it is slow. And I must admit, it is slow. They can do a lot more. You see, in our discussion with some of our states, the argument has always been, oh, yes, we want to do it, but we are starved of funds. And it goes back to what I said earlier in my presentation, that maybe, just maybe, the type of the democracy or the type of constitution we run that concentrates nearly more than half of the money that we share in the federal is also affecting development in the states. I know governors who will tell you that, oh, Sheye, I want to do this, but I've spent 75% on paying salaries. Where would the money for this come from? It is frustrating, but what you are saying is right. We are seeing one or two, I mean, we've even encouraged those who were some of the states who are setting up universities that, look, why don't you even set up a technical university? And I'm glad that Oyo did one, which is now running very well. It's more a private stroke state operated university, the technical university here in Oyo State as you enter Ibadan. That's a good example of them trying to push forward what they all agreed on when it comes to technical education for the Southwest education policy. You talked of data. Data is everything. At Dawn Commission, we do a lot of that. I'm glad that a lot of the states, even when they need some data on several areas, maybe health, agric and stuff, they refer to Dawn. They ask us, Dawn, we know that you have this. But we still believe we are scratching the surface. Gathering data needs a lot of money, which Dawn cannot afford. But in the little that we do in mining this data, the states come here often. We also work collaboratively with the NBS in Abuja. But we can do more. We can do more. We say it all the time that there's no way a governor will tell me that Mr. Governor is saying, oh, I've spent 100 million naira on primary education this year. How do you measure the success of that 100 million naira? Or why did you even spend 100 million naira in the first place? Maybe if you have adequate data, you will have spent just 50 million naira. You don't know that. So at Dawn Commission, we've tried as much as possible to help our states in our own little way in having accurate information. And it has helped them. But again, with more funding, we can do a lot more. There are things that we have here in the pipeline working with our consultants. You mentioned that the states, some of them are not that open when you need information, particularly the way they tell us how they spend our money. All the states will say, oh, no, they ask the information is available. And we encourage them that, no, it should be at the touch of a button. At varying degrees, the 6 states are, they're not on the same level, I must admit, but some are far better than the other when it comes to information. And I'm not talking about any information, but vital information. But they can only get better. I would say that where we are in 2023 is not where we were in, say, 2016 or 2015. Things have improved a lot in that aspect. Then finally, when you talk of PPP arrangements and implementation, what Dawn has been doing over the last 2 years is we now actively engage with the private sector. So to just do an example, recently one of our states was trying to look for funding to do a road, very important road that links that state to Lagos. Funding was an issue. Dawn Commission was at the forefront of trying to get funders, international finance, for the states. And I can say now that they're at an advanced stage. They've agreed on 1 or 2 things. The feasibility study is being done, but they've agreed that they will fund once that is completed. We realize that the more we work with the private sector, things get done. a lot of people that want to do one thing or the other in power, they've been talking to us. We have now linked them up with the states, and they've taken the conversation forward. Just today, a company came, one company came from the Middle East. They have a lot of money that they want to spend in power. We were able to identify the states that we believe will quickly key into that project. We've linked them together. We don't implement, but our model in the last 2.5, 3 years is to interface with the private sector. And because we don't do politics, they believe in us, we're able to then, in the past, we want to move together with 6 states, but now the policy is, even if it's 2 states that are ready, we work with them as long as they can see the results.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We'll take the last question from Nikki Olagban.
Thanks, Dr. Shea. Thank you.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, I'm very sorry. The network has not been very friendly where I am.
Oh.
So, and I decided to lower my hand the other time because I wasn't sure whether my question had been addressed, but I will still ask. And if it had been addressed, no sweat. My question is this: we are talking about regional integration and development in the Southwest region. So I just want to ask specifically, over the years that DAWN has been in existence, what specific integration or cooperation projects have been executed by DAWN? What sort of projects in terms of integration and cooperation has been executed by DAWN over the years? If there's 1 or 2.
Okay. You see, let me give you another example. You know, today there is a rice mill in Lagos, in Imota. Imota rice mill was the idea. We started from our office here when we sold the idea of we called it Western Rapid Rice Accelerated Program for Integrated Development. All the states saw it, but of course, Lagos took it further and developed their own ideas and decided to have the Imota rice mill. Now, what we then did as a commission, Lagos went ahead and 32 tons per hour rice mill, but Lagos doesn't have the land to grow the rice needed. So they approached DAWN, and what DAWN Commission did was to go around, and we were able to secure 42,000 hectares of land for Lagos. And please listen to this carefully. 42,000 hectares of land was secured for Lagos in the states. So all the states are part of Ogun signed up. They gave out land that, yes, you're able, as long as the farmers are coming from my state, we're all for it. And it was the governor signed the MOU. But with the change, and that's where we always say that it's government should always be a continuum. But the Lagos model changed under the new administration. And they said, okay, we want to operate purely as a business. That the model that we all signed, the old MOU, was just quasi-business. But now we want to operate solely as a business. We can get our rice from anywhere. So the idea of Lagos State going to clear land in Ekiti for the farmer in Ekiti to plant rice was jettisoned. And they said, if Ekiti wants to bring their paddy to Lagos, we'll buy. But how they produce the paddy is their own problem. Now, as I said, the 42,000 MOU then became moribund because Lagos said, I can't take my money to go and clear land in a different state. That's part of the challenges of not having, I don't want to say that, well, it is what we call policy flip-flop. But what we then did was to then bring our farmers in Southwest. DAWN Commission brought in all the, because we have partnership with all these farmers.
Shay, well, let me just add to that. Why wouldn't the state, I mean, if they have off-takers, okay, why wouldn't the state invest in their own farmers? Because obviously there is a market for them in Lagos that are ready to take it.
You are absolutely, you see, Sonny, you are absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
You see, there's some things that are better unsaid, but that are better not said. But you see, you can't fault Lagos. I'm sorry, you can't fault them.
Yes.
But why should that? They said, why should I go and clear land for you? If you want your farmers, invest in them, clear the land, let them come and sell the rice. I will offtake. Well, some of them said, oh, well, okay, we'll go and do our own rice mill. But suddenly they realized that it's not that straightforward. So, but eventually, as I said, we aggregated all the farmers, the genuine rice farmers together, brought them under an umbrella and handed them over to Lagos. And thankfully, the big ones are planting their paddy and supplying Lagos. At least we didn't lose out completely. The farmers who can plant are doing that and Lagos of taking. It would have been better, as you rightly said, if the states had taken ownership. But it is still work in progress. I'm just using that rice now as an example. It is still work in progress, trying to get some of our states to look at the big picture.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Look at the big picture. You see, if the governments of 60, 70 years ago, the Awolowo Akintola, if they were not audacious, I'm not sure we'll have been here today. But they were audacious. They looked at 40, 20, 30 years down the road. The problem we have today with leadership in Nigeria or in Africa, well, Nigeria, don't let me say Africa, is that we're so short-term in the way we want to do things. So if you go and tell the governor that, please, come and plant cocoa, in 4 years' time, you will harvest. The governor will say, my predecessor, my successor will be the one to harvest. I would rather go and plant corn, which I will harvest in 9 months so that I can win the next election. What I'm trying to say is that governance needs to move beyond short-termism of winning the next election. Let us do things. Let us do things that transcends election cycles. The moment we do that and we look beyond the next 4 years, development will then be a process.
So far, this has been a challenge for Don because the governors really don't.
One cannot, at least it's in certain areas that's been a challenge because governors, you can't blame them. They want to win the next time. They want to win the next election. So some of them will say, look, what you said is a good idea, but I need my votes for 4 years' time.
So in view of that, what will you say about this agitation for regionalization, self-governance, people do this and that, all those glamoring, seeing that even cooperation among the regions that we have today is not as smooth as, I mean, you've been trying to run this for some time and I'm not sure we've been as successful as we would have liked to be, you know. So what would you say to those agitators, you know, saying that Nigeria needs to get back to either regions or states or, you know, and all of that to control resources and all of that stuff, given what you have seen?
You see, given what I've seen, if Nigeria is going to get back to regions, number one, there has to be again, that famous word, there has to be a complete restructuring of the way we govern ourselves. You can't go to regional system and still be operating the type of constitution we operate. Okay. It's not going to work. You see, you cannot have a system where you don't have a say on the resources that come from where you are governing, where everything goes into a central port and they start sending it back to you. Make no mistake about it. I believe that regional system, maybe not the type Britain gave us when they were going. Maybe it could be an amalgamation of what's it called, presidential system and regionals and the old parliamentary system. At least that will do one thing. It will cut the cost of governance. Let's start from there. Because the amount of money we spend on governing ourselves is alarming. And it's not, I'm actually scared that it is not sustainable. So if a state is saying that I spend 90% of my back on salary, how do you sustain that? But states need to be, there was a year, I've forgotten the word that was used. Japan used to have over 50 states, and I'm sure there are people here who will understand, who remember that period. States came together, they merged for effectiveness. as I said, I'm not sure that can ever happen here, but maybe, just maybe, if we decide to have a constitutional change, whereby there will be certain parameters that will be set before you can have a state. Or if we go back to our regions, if you want to have 100 states in your region, as long as you can fund it, you are not waiting for one handout from the federal. But by doing that as well, there are so many things that you need to cede back to the states. I've just mentioned the new power bill that was signed by former President Buhari. Yes, power has been devolved. But if the 6 states today want to set up a power company, you'll be surprised that the law that was signed by President Buhari does not allow the 6 states to have a single thing. They will say, oh, no, you have to do it in your own state. It is just that regions like ours are cleverly finding ways around it to ensure that we do that. So those who are saying that, let us go back to the way you used to work. I don't believe that the 36 states we have is sustainable. I don't believe that. We say all, that's why I laugh when some still go to the Senate to say, create my own states. I mean, how do you fund the states? You only go and look at the IGR of some states. It's not up to a local government in Lagos. You're thinking, and that's the state. So I strongly believe that going forward, we need to, and I'm not going to say we should go for another constitutional conference. We've had enough of that. The recommendations there, if properly implemented, I believe will move the country forward at a faster pace. What we're doing at the moment is, it's as if that we are sweeping so many things we've swept so many things under the carpet. The carpet is now full. It's so undulating, and we are tripping over it.
Yeah. All right.
We used to say that, I'm sorry, let me just end with this.
Okay.
We used to say that, oh, well, Nigeria defies every economic theory. We are doing this, we will always survive it. But the reality is now staring us in the face that we are close to being bankrupt if care is not taken. We are complaining about our foreign exchange rates. We are totally import dependent. Then how do you control your foreign exchange? If everything you do, everything down to your toothpick, you need dollars for it. So a lot of thinking needs to be done for us to get to that development. I mean, you only need to look at your YouTube. You see some of our schools, no roof, people studying under trees. And it's because, and it's not that these governors are insensitive. Some of them will tell you that I earned 9 billion. I'm just quoting figures from here. And I've spent 7.7 billion on salary. I'm down to 1.2 billion. I need to do health. I need to pack refuse. I need to pay. I need to do education. So once we are ready to confront our demons, trust me.
Okay.
Develop.
All right. I'll quickly take Bayo. Afolabi, I don't know if we'll have time, but we'll try and see. Please make it brief, straight to the point, because we are due to have finished at 6:30. And so we are really overshot the time. Bayo, your comment, your question, and I'll take Uncle Afolabi.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to ask this question. And thank you, sir, for the presentation. Wonderful. My question is about, you mentioned something really, which is about the short-sightedness of our politicians. And it seems they want to do everything to win election, and that's all they are thinking about. So if you look at it, it's not in the interest of the nation or the states. Thinking short term. If you look at cities in the world, they plan long term, and that's why we see the level of development we see all over the world in places like big cities that we mentioned, and people are jackpotting into nowadays. I'm one of the people that have jackpot. So how do we do it? How do we make it appealing or presentable to politicians to think, long term, so that the states are better for it? How do we encourage that? That's one. Number two, how do we ensure that we get? Somebody mentioned something about data. How do we ensure that we get data in terms of, how do we, economy and education, so that we improve our education. And this is an example I want to make. I think that the level of out of school population in Lagos or illiteracy is very high, or in Nigeria is very high. And you see that most people come out of higher institution and don't get education. So, I mean, if we have data, we should have been thinking towards apprenticeship and technical education. So how do we encourage, data in terms of decision making? That's my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The first question straight away, there's no substitute for long-term planning. I'll give you an example. I remember that years ago, when I was trying to get on the property ladder, when I was still in my previous life living in UK, and the area I was going to buy then in what is now known as Docklands, everything that was going to happen 20 years down the road, they told me that in 5 years' time, this will happen. In 10 years' time, this will happen. 15 years, this will happen. Trust me, everything they said was going to happen, happened over time because they had planned towards it. The Elizabeth line in London that was opened about 2 years ago, I mean, it has been in the pipeline for years. They knew it was going to come. So whatever government that comes in, they followed through. They knew they had. So if Tony Blair didn't complete it, he started, or maybe he started it. Cameron or whoever took over, what's his name, Gordon Brown, continued. A different party came, they continued. Because they believe that long-term planning is essential for development. The challenge we have in Nigeria, and I'm hoping that and some states are bucking the trend, I must say this. And also the last government, and of course I don't work for them, I can't speak for them, but one of the things I like that the last administration did of Buhari was that quite a lot of projects that the previous government started, they continued, they didn't abandon. You see, if you do that, you will have development. But the challenge we've always had is, I must do my own thing. That's why we encourage our principals, governments, to always surround themselves, not just with their political acolytes or those who will just do their bidding. Also make sure that's why we always shout, have technocrats in government, people who will tell you that, Mr. Governor, let's do it this way. Not just because of the political gain, but what will happen in 10, 15 years' time if we do it that way. The rail that we're talking about in Southwest, the states are subscribing to it now because they know that it will be beneficial for development over time. No, I'm not sure any governor here is going to use rail to win votes. They would rather go and do their roads, their 1 kilometer roads later, but at least they are subscribing to it. So what we need to emphasize and encourage, and institutions like DAWN, what we have been doing across our own states, that was why I mentioned Office of Transformation, is to ensure that whatever policies that have been put in place endures. It doesn't just last 4 years. That's okay, Mr. Governor A started this. It is still work in progress. When the new government comes in, the Office of Transformation is there to ensure that they continue with it. And we've seen that in a few of our states in Southwest, which is a plus. Again, you mentioned data. Data is everything. Data involves a lot of money, And we encourage our states, apart from the one we do at DAWN, that if there is one department that should be funded properly, it's those that work with data, those that can gather data for you, because they are the ones that can ensure that your money is judiciously spent, and that rather than you spend 1 billion, you only need to spend 500 million to get it right. It's a no-brainer, and it's quite frustrating at times when, of course, because of the way we are set up, we tend to, and I'm talking of DAWN, I'm just talking of us in Nigeria, the way we are made of, we tend to think of everything from the political angle once in a while. And it's because of the preponderance of politicians in core governance. But the moment we allow more and more of technocrats to mix with politicians, we will get more of good governance. I'm saying that guardedly. I'm not saying that everybody in government must be a technocrat. That's not going to work. But at least, more importantly, we should ensure that we have technocrats to work with politicians in government.
Okay.
Very important.
All right. Finally, we'll take Afolabi, and you can give us your closing thoughts. Unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening. I just wanted to go back to your previous point of internally generated revenue. Last year, Lagos State internally generated revenue was more than 25 states combined. Was more than 25 states combined. You know, the North Central, they had to combine revenue of 246.4 billion in 2022. Northwest, 186.4 billion. Southeast, 114.5 billion. Northeast, 92 billion. A total of 639.3 billion. Lagos State alone was 651.1 billion. I mean, is it sustainable? For how long is this sustainable? That the federal is constantly, I mean, Lagos State having more than 25 billion, 25 states combined in internally generated revenue. My point was just to buttress your point of earlier.
You see, Mr. Ajinawa, thank you for that. You see, I actually think that the day we start holding states accountable, maybe, just maybe, and I'll give you an example. Because we still share the same, there's a big cake in Abuja that's being shared. So when they are sharing money on education, I don't want to be mentioning states. They will go to a certain states, maybe in the northwest or northeast. They will give them a certain percentage, 25% on education, just as an example. They will also come to Lagos, 25% education. Meanwhile, don't forget that all the people that they are meant to spend 25% on in that state in the northeast, all of them are in Lagos. If we get to a situation where if in 2023 there are 150 people in your state who are in school, they give you money for 150. In 2024, they go down to 70. They give you money for just 70. And they go to the state that has added the 80. They increase their money. Suddenly, you will make sure that the following year, you make sure you have your 150 or more. And then also, you will also be forced to ensure that you put in more efforts, because you know that there's a reward. If you generate more revenue, there's a reward for it. But because, as I said, there's no reward for even hard work. I pity Lagos. They bear the brunt of it. We can complain. I mean, people will say, "Oh, in the time of Fashola, things were not like this." In the times of Ambode, and I tell them that the population BRF dealt with is totally different from the population Babajide Sanwo-Olu is dealing with, and it will be different from the population the next governor will deal with. All because number one, we don't keep at, I mean, look at the population census we are still working with, close to 20 years. Secondly, as I said, because it's still sharing of the same cake, I collect free money as a governor in one of my states in the north there, or I don't want to be saying north, but at least in that part of the country where we just collect money and there's no accountability of how, or we don't have data on how the money is spent. We just spent because we know that the following month. Someone was telling me recently now that states are awash with money, and who can say no? They used to share 600 billion as revenue. Now they're knocking on 1 trillion every month. Who is going to hold the states accountable? So where is the incentive to generate more revenue? Lagos does not have a choice. They need to generate more because everybody goes to Lagos, which is a shame, which is a failure in itself of development in other parts. That was why I used the example of Ogun State, that the more Ogun State was able to attract industries and development into the state, the population of those migrating from Ogun State to Lagos dropped. We have the data. Now, not everybody, so because there are more than enough companies to even absorb them. How can developments be equitably distributed across the 36 states? But the work is with the governors as long as they can also push the idea that federal governments, you are holding on to too much money, we can do a lot more. Look at our roads. We talk of federal roads. In all my grown-up years, I've not seen federal people. All I see are people. I traversed a road the other day, traveling from Ondo State to Ekiti State. And I was told, oh, it's a federal road. And I'm saying that I can assure you that in 4 years of President Bola Tinubu, he will not come here. It has to be the 2 states doing this. But then the government has said, if you touch my road, I won't pay you. You see, there's so many things that are antithetical to developments that we do in Nigeria. I mean, that's why I mentioned a state, Lagos, waiting 4 years before they could get right of way to do rail. A lot needs to be reorganized, if I don't want to use the word restructured, if we want to develop.
All right. Thank you very much.
Pastor Sonny,
yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
I have one question from YouTube. If you don't mind, I think we should take that so that at least we can have our YouTube people engaged.
Yeah.
If that's okay with you.
Please go ahead.
Okay, I'll read it. This is from Yetunde Ayola Davis. Can the West also bring back City and Guide 2 for more vocational education? Not everyone may want to study in Ibadan. How about restarting the vocational colleges in each state, sir?
Yeah, but to be honest, that's the plank of the education policy that we all agreed on. Set up technical and vocational colleges in different states, even in the villages. Go there, set it up, fund it. You see, as I said, and I don't want to be sounding like a broken record. It's not that at times the states don't know that they need to do this. But as I said, I just gave an example. If a state earns 9 billion or collects 9 billion and spends 7.7 on salary, they then struggle to do a lot more. And a lot needs to be done, unfortunately, which we are not doing because we have constantly refused. And I hope that this new administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, now that he's totally in his chair, as he said, his job is safe by winning at the tribunal today. I want to believe that he is a federalist. I mean, his antecedents showed when he was governor, that maybe, just maybe, he can be the one to push our National Assembly to that. Look, let us have some critical reforms to the way we govern ourselves if we want to develop. What we are doing at the moment, we can practice this for the next 30 years. Not much will change. Not much will change. And my fear is our population is exploding and we are not ready for that explosion.
All right. Thank you. Jumoke, are you okay?
Yes. Thank you. No more questions from YouTube.
All right. Thank you very much, Seyi Oyeleye. It's been a very engaging session. I must confess, I'm one of those people that really haven't heard about this DAN commission, but regional cooperation was something that I thought was important and we needed to cooperate more. Even without a commission like this, I think the states that are next to each other need to cooperate a lot more, especially when you are working on something that will affect, your neighboring states, things like security and all the other stuff. So I practice as an executive coach, and I work with state governments, state government officials, commissioners, PAMSECs, and some of those people. And part of what we say to them is, whenever you are considering a project, you must consider all the impact it's going to have on all other elements, ministries, states, areas, and we try to help them to think through all of that stuff. And I'm sure that's what your commission is doing. And we really want to appreciate you for coming on this evening to share a bit about what the commission is doing and what you'll be doing in terms of regional cooperation. I don't know if Pastor H.Y. is around, but I would just like to take your closing thought, even as we close up now, if you have anything more to say.
Yes, just to round up, number one, thanks for the opportunity. I just want to say that, you see, Nigeria is not a basket case, honestly. It isn't. I mean, because I've seen a lot of people japa and run away and say, oh, nothing will ever happen, nothing will ever work. It isn't a basket case. What we need to do is to refocus, concentrate minds on doing things differently. I don't want to castigate anyone. Let me give you an example. Example of look at our currency. What's it called? The foreign exchange rates at the moment.
Yeah.
Everybody's shouting, and I keep saying that I've lived in 1 or 2 countries in the past. Nobody talks about foreign exchange rate, and do you know why? It's because they are not 100% import dependent. They eat or wear what they produce. If Nigeria, number one, if Nigeria decides to focus more on what they can produce, number one, we will probably have a stronger currency. But then it's not even a matter of currency. We need to be more patriotic. I hate to say this. The difference between the Ghanaian and the Nigerian, for me, and this is my personal opinion, because I've been to Ghana a few times, is that the Ghanaian seems to love Ghana. Nigerians, I'm sorry to say, maybe there's no, that Nigerian thing is not there. They don't seem to want to love the country. That is why a group of people, listen to this, can decide that they're ready to swindle the country of $11.1 billion.
Yes.
I mean, if you love your country, I'm sure, no, you wouldn't have participated in that. That was why the judge was scathing that what type of officials do you have in your country if they're ready to do this? So my closing remarks is that Nigeria is not a basket case.
Okay.
Let us be more patriotic. You might say, oh, why should I be patriotic? No. If we do that little thing from our own little corner, and I choose to do the right thing, if I don't need dollars, I don't go and hoard it in my bedroom. Because if Mr. Sonny buys dollars, puts it in his room, if Sheye buys dollars, Benjamin buys dollars, Dolapo buys dollars, then your own currency will remain worthless, as an example. So let us even focus first. Let us be more patriotic and know that if in my own little corner, if I want Nigeria to be good, it starts with me. Then
Sheye, I think you said it. You said it all. You said it all. You said it all. There's no more to add. We really appreciate your comments. And I hope you'll be talking to the Senate about buying those cars from abroad, because I heard the man trying to defend it yesterday on television that our roads are bad. And so, anyway, let me not start another conversation, but we need to show examples from the top. If, for example, Tinubu does away with 5 jets and keep one, the senators say we are going to use Toyota Corolla, or we are going to use Innocent saloon cars, all that can help really. But conversation for another day. We really want to appreciate you for coming on Nigeria Leadership Series. We hope to keep up the conversation, and we want to thank everyone that has been part of this conversation today. God bless you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, Jumoke, go ahead.
Yes, I put a couple of documents in the chat room. This is an initiative that we're working on. Trafrica Empowerment Foundation is working on, called Feed a Neighbor, Feed a Nation. It's a food drive for the end of the year because of everything that's going on now. We want to reach out to our neighbors. We want to reach out to the communities across Nigeria to just put smiles on people's face and reach out to them with something that would help. So please look at the flyer, look at the fact sheet, tells you more about it, and then feel free to share with your contact. We're daring to believe that we can reach over 1 million Nigerians towards the end of the year. So please cooperate with us, look at that, and let us know if you have any suggestions or need additional information. So this is for everyone that put it that has visited us today, that is a part of this. There's also a link if you want to get more involved with ALG. Tri-Africa Empowerment Foundation is the umbrella organization. So please go ahead and fill that form. We'll get in touch with you. We meet here every Thursday, same time, same Zoom link. And the more Nigerians that are involved in this conversation, the better for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Really appreciate your insightful discussion.
I will share my email address with the admin person so that it can be.
Pastor Olu. Yes, and we'll definitely get in touch with you to follow up with the meeting.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
And you too.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good evening. God bless you.
Thank you, Sister Marcella Ojo Odomo.